Good morning. It is Wednesday, April 1st, and this is American History for Chapter 28, Section 3. Our question of the day is, what was the impact of the Great Society? Um, the Great Society was the title of this section. It is about the time in our country's history after Lyndon Baines Johnson takes over when President Kennedy was assassinated. Um, the chapter starts off talking about the little bit of the poverty that was going on during the time, and it mentions that Johnson got to the airport, and got on the Air Force One at 2:38 p.m. on November 22nd, and had Jacqueline Kennedy on one side, JFK's widow, and Lady Bird Johnson on the other side, and he took the oath of office. In the book, it has a quote by Johnson that said, "A nation stunned, shaken to its very heart, had to be reassured that the government was not in a state of paralysis, that the business of the United States would proceed. I knew that not only the nation, but the whole world would be anxious following every move I made, watching, judging, weighing, balancing. It was imperative that I grasp the reins of power and do so without delay. Any hesitation or wavering, any false step, any sign of self doubt could be disastrous." He was pretty um, intuitive in knowing that the charismatic Kennedy had things going, started a lot of programs, wanted things going in a certain direction. And Johnson needed to step up to the plate and do this. Johnson also was smart enough to realize that some of those programs that Kennedy got going were going to be pushed through because of what had happened. So Johnson did that. Now, his leadership style was different than Kennedy. Kennedy was elegant. He was East Coast born and bred. He was from an affluent society. Johnson, on the other hand, came from a poor society. He lived in West Texas. He had spent time as a teacher in underprivileged areas in Texas. His family was fairly poor, so he had a different style than what Kennedy did. Um, Johnson had been in politics for 26 years by the time he became president. He had been a congressional aide. He had been in the House of Representatives. He had been a senator, so he knew. Now, he moved up the political ladder and developed a reputation as a man who got things done. He did favors, twisted arms, bargained, flattered, and threatened. The tactics he used, persuaded others to become known throughout Washington as the Johnson treatment. So he had a way about doing things. Some writers quoted saying that this treatment could last 10 minutes or 4 hours. Its tone could be supplication, accusation, exuberance, scorn, tears, compliment, the hint of threat. It was all these together. Injections from the target were rare, and Johnson anticipated him. Johnson had a way. He had a way of getting people to agree with him, to come to a consensus with him. He bargained, begged, and stealed, basically, to get things to go through the way he wanted them to. He didn't always get everything he wanted, but Kennedy was different. Kennedy's ways were he smoothed out the wrinkles. Johnson tended to create some wrinkles, but he still got things done. Johnson's going to declare a war on poverty. By the summer of '64, he convinced Congress to pass the Economic Opportunity Act, which established a wide range of programs aimed at creating jobs and fighting poverty. He also created a new agency called the Office of Economic Opportunity. They would coordinate the new programs. Johnson also started the Vista Program, which was Volunteers in Service to America. This was kind of the domestic version of the Peace Corps. The young people who were trained for the Vista Program stayed in the United States, helped in underprivileged areas of the United States. And remember, the Peace Corps, when they were trained, they were sent out to other countries and helped in underprivileged areas in other countries. So it was a program that Johnson started that mirrored Kennedy's Peace Corps. Okay. Johnson took office in '64, right after Kennedy was assassinated. I called that date up. It was November 22nd of '63. So he moved into '64, an election year. Okay, Johnson moved fast. He got a lot of things going. Got a lot of people interested in what he was doing. In April '64, Johnson, the Fortune magazine declared Lyndon Johnson has achieved a breadth of public approval few observers would have believed possible when he took office. He had very high approval rates. Now, he did have a Republican candidate in the '64 election, Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater was from Arizona. He was outspoken on his conservatism. He set the tone for his campaign when he accepted the party's nomination, declaring extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. People weren't ready for Barry Goldwater. So when it came about, Barry Goldwater ended up losing to Johnson. Johnson won by a landslide, winning all but 5 southern states and Arizona. And Johnson later said, for the first time in my life, I felt truly loved by the American people. Johnson felt he'd really accomplished something. There had been times when presidents had passed away in the past that their vice presidents didn't get reelected when their term was over. So Johnson winning by a landslide really was able to capture the American spirit. Now, Johnson's Great Society. It was a vision of more perfect and equitable society in the United States and could and should become. According to Bill Moore, who served as Johnson's press secretary, Johnson admired Franklin Roosevelt and wanted to fill FDR's mission. He wanted to do what would require he wanted to do what require a program that would be on the same large scale as the New Deal. So he wanted to get something like the New Deal going. His goals were consistent for the time. Johnson's first elaborated on the goals in the Great Society during his speech at the University of Michigan. It was clear that he did not intend only to expand relief to the poor, but to confine government efforts to material things. The president wanted to build a better society for all, where leisure is welcome and a chance to build and reflect, where the city of man serves not only the needs of the body, but the demands of commerce and the desire for beauty and the hunger for community. Johnson wanted to make things better for everybody. Among the more significant programs that he did was Medicare and Medicaid, which today, if you are retired, you can sign up for Medicare and Medicaid. It provides insurance and benefits for retired individuals. And then they also have supplemental insurance that goes along with that you end up getting, okay? So that's something that started under Johnson's presidency, okay? Healthcare reform had been a major issue since Harry Truman. By the 1960s, public support for healthcare, better healthcare benefits had been solidified, and Medicare was an exceptionally strong support. So it was picked up and put through by Johnson, okay? He also started Project Head Start. It was administered by the Office of Economic Opportunity. It directed disadvantaged children who had never looked at a picture book or scribbled in a crayon. It helped schools. We still have projects like that today. There are Head Start programs today that families can apply and get their children to help them, get them prepared for going into school, okay? So this is something that still goes on today that Johnson started, okay? The legacy of the Great Society for Johnson, debate has continued over whether or not the Great Society was truly a success. In many ways, the impact of the Great Society was limited. In his rush to get as much done as he could, Johnson did not calculate exactly how much his programs might work. As a result, some did not work as well as people had hoped. The programs grew so quickly and often were mismanaged and difficult to evaluate. So it wasn't all sunshine and roses for Johnson. Johnson did the best he could. He'll go down as a president who really improved millions of lives and reshaped government. He was able to get things done. Sometimes he went too fast and it got too big and he couldn't control it, but he still got things done. This section was fairly short and I kind of hit the highlights of it. I hope you read it. Um, Later today, I will put out the study guide for the test, and I'll come back tomorrow with just a short message, encouraging you a little bit. Work on your study guide, answer your question of the day. There will be no videos or question of the days for Friday. Friday would be considered a day that most of your teachers are going to be getting together with their subject matter teachers through Zoom or phone calls or emails or texts or whatever, to try to share ideas and kind of plan for this next month. We'll take a couple days that we'll do that here in this month to make sure we're staying on track and try to keep you engaged as possible. Okay. I'll get that study guide posted a little bit later today, and you'll have until probably, I'll make sure I check my due dates and make sure I give you probably till next Wednesday. And then if you can turn it in through the Teams app on Wednesday, and I'll give you subtle reminders as we go along, and there'll be questions for the day for tomorrow and then for next week also. And then probably I'll come on with a review type lecture on Thursday. And then I'll put your test on here on Friday and allow you time to take your test. This is just ways to keep us engaged, okay? Try to keep us up and keep us moving. That way, if we come back in May, we can kind of take off where we stop through this next month and finish out the last few weeks of school, okay? Again, I hope you're being safe. I hope you're following the guidelines. If you're one who has to go out and work, I hope you're being cautious and being careful while you're working. Send me a message and email. Let me know that you're getting this stuff. I've had a few people after I sent out a mass email yesterday reply back. Check your school emails. Contact your classmates. Let them know that this is going on and they need to be checking their school emails. We're trying to keep things as close to school as we can to keep you engaged and keep things going in a direction to those who are graduating and get you to graduate, and those that will be back for next year to have you prepared to go on to your classes for next year. Feel free to email me through my school email, or you can call my school number at 217-639-5099. Be safe, and I will be back tomorrow. Have a good day.